1976 Cadillac Sedan de Ville walk-around video. I brought this car home from the shop to take a video of it under the carport here because my first video in the sunlight was very washed out. Just really couldn't see a lot of the detail I wanted to show. We've got a lot better shading here that will give us some good reflection. So I'll do a quick walk around best I can here. Conveniently, we have an 87 Brougham as a reflective reference point. So that's good. You can see the condition of the body and the paint, the fillers, and up this side. Oh, there's a nice straight line of reflection. That works out well. Extremely clean car. We have clay barred and buffed it out in a very lightly. We didn't get aggressive with it. It's mostly the original paint, and the color is Callumet Cream. The chrome is quite excellent, as you can see the reflection. All the chrome trim is excellent. The grille, hood ornaments, all the stuff is quite nice. If you know these cars, you've probably seen a lot of them with this double hood ornament feature. And what's that all about, right? So up until 1970, Cadillac only put an ornament on the nose. Starting in 71 on the Eldorados and some Fleetwoods, they introduced the standing hood ornament. So if you had a Sedan de Ville, bought it brand new, and you wanted that Fleetwood look, you just got the dealer to install the standing hood ornament, which is just this piece here. It would have originally just been a flat cap. So this would have been done at the dealership, most likely, back when the car was bought or shortly thereafter. The hubcaps are immaculate. Not a single peck on them. The side trim is all straight. Beautiful. The chrome on the door handles is excellent. Hardly, if any, pitting. You have to look hard to find anything wrong. The usual places where you see it is tops of the mirrors, door handles. The sheen on all of this windshield trim is great. The tires are new. They're Galaxies, and these are the first replacement tires that have ever been put on this car. So I bought it with the original Uniroyal tires still on it, and I have proof. So here are two of them. 45-year-old Uniroyal. I should have cleaned them up. They're L78 15s, and they look a lot better than they actually are. Knee deep in rubber. They have 14,000 miles on them. However, they were no longer round and no longer safe. You see a nice, real big flat spot right there. My plan was I was going to try to keep them on the car to sell it that way as an original, but it just wasn't practical. I really couldn't move the car or do anything with it, so I put the Galaxies on there, but kept a couple of these just for reference, posterity. Here's why I only kept two. This is, again, one of the two best ones, and it has rusty steel belts popping through. The two that I had to discard were they were so nasty, I was afraid I was going to cut myself rolling them back to the truck. I actually removed the hubcaps and rims myself, delivered everything over in my truck, and reinstalled all of this myself. So, not that I don't trust anyone, or not that I don't trust the tire shop. It's simply that I don't trust anyone with stuff like that. So, just the detail, the fine points in this car really stand out, and the small details put together create an amazing picture. Just to cover everything. Of course, you can see all of this in the stills that will be listed. No cracks, no chips, nothing in the windshield. I replaced the just the rubber. That's one thing I think is a mistake. You'll see a lot of people replace the arms because that's all you can buy at the auto parts store now, but you can get just the blades online. Okay, the biggest I'm trying to describe it. The biggest challenge as far as a decision that was made, I had to make a tough call regarding a little bit of blistering that was happening under the original top. So we had a few issues along this, just very light issues, just noticeable, not prominent, but they were there, and I knew what was going on underneath from experience. And you had what I call the fruity pebble effect in various places across the top, especially the header. These cars just got that, and if you ever saw under an original top, you'd know why. Because Cadillac did not paint the roof. There's a dusting of primer up there, and basically it was left to deteriorate. So many of these cars met a nasty end with gaping holes in the side because that rust was allowed to begin that decay. Didn't want to see that happen. I wanted to clean it up best I could. So I had the best body man in town. We took the top off, took it to him, had him address all of those issues everywhere on the roof. We sprayed the roof with the same lacquer paint, the Callumet Cream paint. So it's painted under the roof. We got a brand new Hearts roof with a correct color and correct grain, spot on match, and had that installed by what I consider the best upholstery man in our area. So I hated to do anything to it that takes away from its original form, but it was for the greater good. TCP Global mixed up the lacquer for me, and it's hard for my eye to see where it blends. I think the camera shows it more pronounced than the naked eye would see, but you can see between the back door and the quarter. That's a lot more pronounced on the video camera than it seems in real life, trust me. But it just had to be done. So no regrets there. And somebody was going to have to do it. And I've seen some really ugly repair jobs, so I figured I would get that done. When I came to look at the car, of course, it was listed as 14,000 miles. Dubious about that. It didn't take me long to be convinced. As soon as I opened the door and smelled the interior, I knew it was correct. These cars do have a certain aroma that I remembered, actually, from the 80s, when I used to have one of these kicking around. So many little things about these cars that go bad. The material itself tended not to hold up that well in certain climates, especially. For example, the driver's armrest is a vulnerable spot. And you really can't reproduce them. Nobody makes them new. You either have to find a replacement piece or get a cover lay. So typically on a higher mileage car, the elbow will start to break through this the foam-backed vinyl that was actually vacuum formed from new. So you can see, if you look at the detail, there's a double bevel on the original ones that can't really be reproduced. So I cautiously use the word perfect, but I mean, it's immaculate. Another vulnerable spot is the top sides of these door panels. What you'll see is the cracking across here, either from intense heat or in the cold, because what would happen in a colder climate or even a colder season is you get out of the car, you push the door open here, and it will crack. Ask me how I know. The upholstery is great. The carpet, as new. Boy, I thought I'd clean that a little better, but it's in great shape. One of the pet peeves of mine on these cars is the steering wheel. So the steering wheel in this car looks like it just came out of a box. This wood trim, as you probably know, is very subject to pop out, come loose. So what you typically will see, the beginnings of it will be the inside. You'll start to feel some separation. Then you might get a crack going across certain areas, then followed by a little piece of the clear lens part popping off, the wood itself coming unraveled, and you'll wind up with a piece of foil hanging off, or everything will just get picked off, because what else can you do with it? But this one's like new. The interior chrome trim is all amazing. The detail around all of these control panel openings. And of course there's the odometer showing the current mileage. I will have to drive this back to the shop about 50-60 miles, so that'll go up a little bit. One thing I'm leaving in the car that I thought was cool is this Aftermarket CB. So it's not mounted in or drilled into anything. It's just sitting there on the hump. So just a drop-in Aftermarket CB that's just tapped into some power, some 12 volt. You can see the wires back there, and it works. So it's actually wired into the non-switched power. There's an antenna for it in the trunk. It's still hooked up. You can mount it and tighten that Allen screw up and talk to some people, I guess. But I thought it was neat just because it's how it originally was. The car does have both sets of original keys, even the key punch-outs, which is pretty cool. There's a few bits of paperwork. There's just an original owner's manual sitting there by itself. I've got some other paperwork elsewhere. But the headliners, as new. The seat belts, all of the other door panels, the weather stripping between the front and rear doors. Of course, this is a hardtop. That's excellent. This car there's no wind noise seeping in, blowing in from the outside when you're going on the highway, nothing like that. Just these little details really tell you, and to me, even if I didn't have the inspection receipts showing the mileage, that's proof enough that this is an original mileage car. They just didn't hold up. I mean, this was the era right before the big paradigm shift in '77. Of course, Cadillac downsized radically. And these cars, as you would know if you were there time-wise, these cars were just not respected during the 80s and 90s. You could buy these cars for almost nothing. So many of them met their end at the crusher because people had washed their hands of these full-size, full-frame, heavy cars. There was such a mentality change during that time. So only now, I think, are people starting to appreciate what these cars were. And these are not the same as something like this. I'm not going to get into this car, but this is kind of what became Cadillac. They downsized to this, which is now considered a very big car. That's not a big car. This is a big car. So this is the full big size luxury ride of that time. The 70s, really the 60s, but the 70s, they were just gratuitously huge. And just gloriously so. I love these cars, and they're a lot of fun. They're fun to drive. They're fun to maneuver, and they're very comfortable. So that's kind of the quick overview. By all means, look at some of the pictures for more details. I'll take another video of the undercarriage and driving and things like that. Thanks.